صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء لعن الله الظالمين لكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have gathered after the days of mourning, after Ashura, in order to remember the crimes that occurred after that day. For us to remember Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and that this very gathering that we are having tonight is carrying on the sunnah that she began when she had the first majalis for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Even as she left Karbala past the bodies, she recited prose and poetry for her brother. One of the factors, the very important factors in the rise of the story of Karbala and the movement of Ashura was Sayyidah Zainab's knowledge, in that she was able to do what she did and pass down this story to us because of that knowledge. And if she did not have that knowledge, then we would not have what we have right now. It all rested on her shoulders. So I wanted to first understand what is knowledge within the Islamic ethos, and go on to why Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam's knowledge was the deciding factor in the aftermath of Karbala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was creating the insan, He came to create Adam, and He said, Inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa. The famous line that we all know is, I am creating in this world a khalifa. Khalifa in the Arabic language has several meanings. Usually is translated as vicegerent. It's a caretaker, someone who takes the place of someone else. Like in the dua when we say, Allah, I leave you as my khalifa for my family and my friends before you go on a travel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's creating this caretaker, this khalifa who's going to be a witness upon the rest of creation. To which the angels ask Him, interestingly enough, are you going to create within it those who will cause mischief? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيُفْسِكُ الدِّمَاء? And the ones who will cause bloodshed? Because they had seen certain creations before. There was the nasnas and the jinn who wouldn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Islamic narrative, there are creations before Adam, of course. And they had seen the corruption that came from these creatures. And so they were asking Allah out of curiosity, as in, you're going to create these beings that had, before, you had beings who created mischief, and you're going to do it again? And the reason they're saying this, and we can see the world the way it is right now, they were right in asking, as in, why would you create this being? Now, Imam al-Khomeini, he says that all of the wrongs that occur, all of the oppression in the world comes back to two main elements within the human being, which are his desire and his anger. Those are elements we have within us, the lower part of the insan. And we have our intellect in order to overcome this and revelation so we can reach our perfection as human beings. And so they had seen that bloodshed had come from these things. the way the human being can overcome those two components within him is through knowledge. Knowledge, and of course, purification of the heart, which comes after knowledge. To know how to purify it, then you purify it. You apply what you know. Of course, knowledge on its own is not enough. And so within the word knowledge itself, 800 times was used in the Quran. 800 times, over 800 times. And the first word in the Quran that was revealed was Iqra. So this is within the Islamic ethos. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied to them. He said, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you don't know. Again, he says, ilm, again, that word is used. What was it that the angels didn't know? This creature, he taught Adam the names, and then Adam told them the names. This creature was a creature of learning. This creature could acquire knowledge and grow. This was a creature with great potential. And so, this knowledge that is drilled into our narrative and drilled into what Islamic civilization should become and what it was in the past, we should also notice how Lady Zainab alayhi salam's knowledge at the time was what got her through everything that happened after Karbala. Now, of course, knowledge, usually when we speak about it, we're speaking about book knowledge. And book knowledge itself is not what's going to make us reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Book knowledge, if Allah sees a sincere servant worshipping Him, and he's trying to know, he's trying to discover, and he's reading, he can know himself, and we say, if you know yourself, you know your Lord. Right? But there's the ma'rifah of Allah isn't there. Because at the end of the day, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created the jinn and mankind except to worship me. And Imam al-Sadiq says, أَيْ لِيَعْرُفُونَ, to know Him. So it's knowing and worship is the reason why we're actually here. The reason why the human being is here is to know and worship. And ma'rifah and ubudiyah. Ma'rifah, ubudiyah. That's why we're here. And that's how you reach your spiritual perfection. And the reason, the purpose of your life. But Imam al-Sadiq also says, Al-ilm laysa bikathrat al-ta'allum, bal huwa nur min Allah, yaqdhifuhu fi qalbi man yasha. That knowledge is not in how much strenuous study you do. It's not in the books, true knowledge, ma'rifah. But it's nur from God sent into the hearts of whom He wills. It's nur. And this is also the type of knowledge that Lady Zainab had. So she had knowledge. She was aware of her political climate. She was aware of the hierarchy in the system that she was living in. She was aware of the lineage of the people. But she also had ma'rifah and true knowledge from God, the one in the heart. And we'll talk about that. And so Imam Sadiq goes on to say, إِنْ أَرَدْتَ الْعِلْمِ فَاطْلُبْ فِي نَفْسِكَ حَقِيقَةَ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ. If you do want knowledge, true knowledge, then within yourself demand the truth of worship. And every word here is essential to understand. And why fi nafsika? Why within yourself? As in the journey is within. As in the journey, the real knowledge that you want is not always outside. And that also goes with that knowledge is nur from God. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And that knowledge is within us. Plato has a philosophy. He says that your archetype and your truth knows everything already, and then you are born into this world. And everything you discover afterwards, you're just remembering. The fact that you're in this world, it's a physical world of limitation. That's why you forget everything. But as you read more, you're just remembering what you already used to know. That's Plato's philosophy. But when you come to the mystics in Islam, they also have something that is similar to this. And that they say that you are here with the potential to manifest the names of Allah. And those names are within you potentially. And if you work on yourself, you manifest those names. And so Allah is Al-Kareem. You have to manifest the name of Al-Kareem in your life. You have to act like God. That's why you're here. And you do that through knowledge and ubudiyah and ma'rifah. And don't be scared of these we have narrations that talk about these concepts. يا عبدي أطعني تكون مثلي تقول الشيء كن فيكون. my servant, worship me, obey me, you'll be like me. You will say to something, be, it will be. تخلقوا بأخلاق الله. Right? Have the akhlaq of God, it says. These are narrations that we have. لِلَّهِ رِجَالٍ إِنْ أَرَادُوا أَرَادٍ. God has men, if they want, He wants. Their want became one. When Sayyidah Zainab, when Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam, when she's angry, it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry. The anger became one. She aligned herself completely with the truth, the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's true knowledge. The journey is within. And it's through ubudiyah and ma'rifah. And Imam al-Sadiq goes on to say, what is ubudiyah? One time I was asked by one of the brothers here. He said, what's better, to be a shaheed or to be a alim? And I said, there's something even greater than both. Ubudiyah, be a Abdullah. Abdullah can attain the highest status. To be Abdullah, slave of God, is the highest thing. The first words of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, قال إني Abdullah. He could have said anything else, but he chose those words. It's a very high level to take. And that's a level of, and that's what Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam was. She was a true servant to God. A true servant. And now we come to Sayyidah Zainab. As she was born, she's taken into the arms of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he says, I'm not going to name her before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi comes to name her. And so the Prophet comes and takes her into his arms, and he said, I won't name her before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala names her. And so Jibreel came down and he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says for this child to be named Zainab, Zainul Ab. She has the best qualities and the best values of her father. That's what her name means. And what a beautiful name. She has the qualities of Amir al-Mu'mineen himself. That's why they felt in the palace in Kufa and Sham as if Imam Ali was there speaking. She has the name, she epitomizes her father's values. But another name that they called her, and Imam al-Sajjad gave her that name, Al-Alima, the knowledgeable one. غير معلمة. She's not taught. It's not just the book knowledge, you see? It's that nur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the nur of ilm into her heart because she's Al-Alima غير معلمة. Even as a baby child, Imam Ali would take her into his arms and he'd say, Baba, قولي واحد. Say one. And she says, واحد. Then he says, قولي اثنين. She says, Father, ما أقول اثنين بلسان أجريته بواحد. I won't say two in the tongue that said one. Right. Even her tongue, she wanted to be fully witnessing Tawheed. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. As a child, this is how she spoke. And she had that beautiful relationship with her brother. Even Imam Hussain, this is how much they would guard her. He would guard her even from the sunlight. He would come into the room and she'd be sleeping. And if the sun was up, he would stand in front of her so he protects her with his shadow. Look to what extent he protects her with his shadow from the sunlight. And then she had to go through what she went through after Karbala. But this ilm that she had came in handy and very important when she knew who her Imam was. It's not the issue of her being her brother. This is something that we have to understand about Karbala. It's not just a sad story. Okay? It's not a story where we come every year and we cry because how could they do that? And they killed his baby and they didn't give him water. You see, they're all sad things, but many sad things happen in life. It's because look who it happened to. The face of God on earth. The divinely chosen leader of humanity on earth. And Sayyidah Zainab knew that. It's not because he's her brother. Of course, he's her brother. But an even higher relationship than that is that he is her Imam. And that's the same relationship that we have, which we're supposed to have with him and with Imam Mahdi Sharif. So we have to realize that relationship is ours as well. That this is our Imam as well. She was close to 50 years old. She was married. She had a family. She had children. Why would she want to go into the desert, right, and randomly follow her brother? It's not an issue of her brother. You see? All the time, you see afterwards, she never said Awn and Muhammad, her sons who died in Karbala. Always one word, one name, Hussain. Everywhere she went, Hussain. Al-Alima. Because she knew. She knew why she was going. And she knew the significance of this divine sacrifice. It's not just a sad story. This is a divine sacrifice. The issues, the lessons we take from it are beneficial for us. The lessons of fighting against injustice, but that's not all it is. It's much greater than that. And we should contemplate over Ashura. Don't wait to listen to guys like me to come and talk about it to you guys once a year. It's for us, all of us. You have a aql. You have your own intellect. You go home, you think over these things. You understand these things, all of us together. And the significance of it in our lives. That it's not just another option on a day where we go to the mosque and we listen to it and we could be somewhere else. You know, Sunday is, for example, shopping or watching a movie or football or going out with the family. But this is life. This is priority. Above all of that. It's not just another option. This has to be at the forefront. Al-Alima. Now, the question arises, why did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam take the woman with him? I mean, didn't he know what was going to happen? And the people in Medina at the time, they were telling him, don't take them. They were telling him, why would you go, but don't take the woman and the children. But the Imam insisted that the woman come for a reason. Because he knew that they were going to be there to pass on the message often. You know, it's very significant to have women in the movement. Very significant. And by the way, the woman wanted to come. They wanted to. He didn't force anyone to come. Very significant because it shows completely the side of truth against the side of injustice. You don't have to think about it anymore. Right now, if we don't know about Nigeria, we should know about Nigeria with Sheikh Zakzaki. What happened to Sheikh Zakzaki in Nigeria? Now, I was in a Uber taxi once and a man was from Nigeria and I started asking about Sheikh Zakzaki. He told me, oh, those guys, they make trouble. Those guys, right? Now, if I wasn't well informed about it, Sheikh Zakzaki's son was in my class in the Hawza and he was martyred in Nigeria. They shot him. His name was Mahmoud Shaheed. He's a Shaheed now. Mahmoud was shot on Quds Day on the floor and they didn't let the ambulance take him. And he has lost 5 of his brothers, and Sheikh Zakzaki right now, we still don't know of his well-being. But if I didn't know that myself, perhaps I would have believed the taxi driver and thought, you know what, maybe they are troublemakers. Now, I have the privilege of having been in the same class with the Shaheed, but most people don't have that privilege. How will we know when the shubuhat, when the doubts come in? How do I know? When you realize that they took Sheikh Zakzaki's wife as well and they shot her and they shot the women and the children, then you know. Then you know which side is oppressed. It becomes clear as day. There was much propaganda at this time. They made Imam al-Hussain look like someone who had left the religion. And he was making a movement against Islam. And there was an empire in Damascus. So they had that power. Right? So this was a statement itself. The women were coming, that this is not, we're not going to go fight. He wasn't going to Karbala to fight. He was going to Kufa. He wasn't going. So this was a peaceful convoy, a peaceful caravan. Not one wanting to go and shed blood. Even people like, they say, Malcolm X himself may have been influenced by the story of Ashura. And if you read his autobiography, the autobiography of Malcolm X, which I recommend everyone reads, you see at the end he starts talking about this is a time for martyrs. Okay? And he starts every single time. He knew they wanted to kill him, but every single time he went to speak in public, in the front row would be his wife and his children. Right? Now, of course, no one can prove that's why, but it's an interesting comparison. The words that he was using and the actions that he was doing. And these theories are not from me. These theories have been articled in essays. So this movement of him taking the woman, he did it on purpose. And on that day, on Ashura, when he went to Lady Zainab alayhi salam, he told her, now leadership is going from me to Sajjad alayhi salam. to my son. So the same way you feel about me, now you have to feel like that about Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, because now he's your Imam. The same way you were sacrificing more for me, now you sacrifice for him. Not because he's your nephew, not because I'm your brother. Do you see the significance of what I'm trying to say? For all of us, as in it's your Imam. All of our Imam. Who it happened to. And she abided by what he said. And after the smoke had cleared and the dust had settled on that day, as dusk came, Umar ibn Sa'd ordered that the caravan of the Sabaya pass through the corpses. And as they went, the caravan would see the bodies on the floor, and Lady Zainab alayhi salam would begin to recite. And she'd call out to Rasulullah. And she'd say to him, هذا حسينك مرمل بالدماء مقطع الأعضاء. This is your Hussein. And now he's covered in dust and blood. He's been mutilated. She starts reciting and everyone starts crying. Everyone starts crying. And they take her to Kufa. And please imagine how difficult this is after everything you have been through. And now you are the one taking care of the orphans. And you are chained and blood. And you just lost, and the heads are on the spears. And you've lost your family. And they take her into Kufa to see Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, to see the oppressor himself. And she walks in with izz. You see, she doesn't let him take her as if she doesn't have dignity. Everyone comes around her. She walks inside and she looks like this is a special woman. Ibn Ziyad's intrigued. He asks, who is this woman? She doesn't respond. He says, who are you? She doesn't respond. I said, who are you to ask me who I am? Right? I'm not going to respond. He asked her 3 times, who are you? And then they replied, this is Zainab, the daughter of Ali. Right? But she walked in with izz. She wouldn't let him feel like he shamed them. And that's another lesson for us to take. Why are we always on the defensive? As in we go to the airport and right? There's no izz. Right? Why? I was in America on Ashura last year, and everyone's carrying flags, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, and someone was carrying the American flag. Right? The American flag that has been built upon it, what it has been built upon. We don't need to say. Now, I'm not saying curse your country, no, but why be so proud? I said it afterwards in the message. I told them why. They said, hey, we have to be proud. I said, no, you don't. You don't have to be proud of it. Don't curse them. Fine, but don't be proud of it. Why? What does the American flag and what it stands for have to do with the movement of the most pure and blessed movement to grace this earth? Why? Where's your dignity? What happened to your izz, Shia of Ali? Right? But she walks into the palace of the oppressor. Imagine yourself walking into the palace of Saudi Arabia and standing in front of the king. Imagine it. Would you have the courage to stand? She stood, and her head held high. And he said, how do you find what Allah did to your family? And first of all, she says, Alhamdulillah, alladhi akramana bi Muhammad. She makes it very clear in the beginning that, hey, the Prophet is from us. Because everyone around, they're still confused. Okay, the Prophet is from us. Then she says, she doesn't look to the heads on the spears. She doesn't look to the massacre. She does not look to the palms of Fadl Abbas alayhi salam on the riverbed. She says, وَمَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. I saw nothing but beauty. See, Ibn Ziyad doesn't know. He's confused, as in, this is a stand that she's making. She begins to tell the people of Kufa, cry for what you have done. You have committed a crime that the sky would fall upon the mountains. And people actually begin to cry. They see the stand, and slowly the Ahlul Bayt begin to stand up. And the people are crying. She went to the oppressor himself and shook his throne. Now, it's good when we raise awareness about oppression, but this is different than going to the actual oppressor and then shaking their throne. That's another level. I mean, imagine it in our day and age and how difficult that is. And she did that. She did that to the hearts that killed Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And they want to get rid of her. He doesn't want her here. He sends her to Sham. And then they enter Sham in the same way. She enters with dignity, with no shame. But Yazid is elated. Yazid is so happy right now. He's been waiting, and he gets the golden tray with the head of the Imam, and he begins to recite his poetry that our sister Habib was just talking about. He begins to recite that poetry, and he says, "This is for you, my ancestors of Badr." You know Badr? There was a battle that happened in Badr 2 generations before that, with the grandfather of Yazid, Abu Sufyan, and he fought, him and the Quraysh fought Rasulullah and Imam Ali alayhi salam. And of course the Muslim had won that battle, and many of the mushrikeen died in that battle. Yazid is still harboring bad blood. You see how he's still connected to his pagan roots. He says, "This is for Badr," and he starts to recite poetry about his ancestors, and finally, I got revenge for you. And he starts to hit the lips with a stick of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And Lady Zainab stands up. He says, "How dare you touch the lips of Abu Abdullah? You think that Allah sees you as high and sees us as low? See, this is al-halima. You think He sees you as high and us as low?" Look how she twists it. She says, "Is it fair, O noble one, and O son of the noble ones?" That's what he calls his ancestors. "Is it fair that your women are safe in their chambers, but the women of the Holy Prophet are here without any protector?" The people begin to realize, this is unjust, what's going on. Right? She twisted it on him. She reminds him of when Rasulullah entered into Mecca, and he pardoned the mushrikeen, even though he could have killed them. After all they had done to him and killed his followers and sent them away, he pardoned them. She brings that up. She shows him, how did you treat us and how did he treat your ancestors? But what's expected of the one who is a descendant of Akilat al-Akbad, of the one who eats the livers? Right? She knows his lineage as well. Hind, his grandmother, ate the liver of Hamza. Look how she's twisting everything on him. She exposes his fallacies. You kill the offspring of Muhammad, you will see those of your lineage soon. May you be put with them in the afterlife. Yazid begins to panic. He's noticing again, what's happening in Kufa is happening here. He tells one of his reciters to stand up and recite eulogies for him in praise of him. And then Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam stands up and counters this. And he says, this is one of the most beautiful statements that the Imam makes. When he stands up in front of them, defiant. And he says, "Man arafani faqad arafani." Whoever knows me, knows me. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفْنِي أَنْبَأْتَهُ بِحَسَبِي وَنَسَبِي. And who doesn't know me, let me tell him of my lineage. Because Yazid keeps talking about lineage, let's talk about lineage. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ, O people. أَنَا ابْنُ مَكَّةَ وَمِنَى أَنَا ابْنُ الزَّمْزَمَ وَالصَّفَى أَنَا ابْنُ مَنْ حُمِلَ عَلَى الْبُرَاقِ فِي الْهَوَى أنا ابن من أسري به من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى أنا ابن من بلغ به جبرائيل إلى سدرة المنتهى أنا ابن من دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى أنا ابن من أوحى إليه الجليل ما أوحى أنا ابن من صلى بملائكة السماء أنا ابن محمد المصطفى. Another salawat to Lady Zainab alayhi salam. And one more with the loudest voices for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And it's so interesting that Imam Zain al-Abidin uses these lines. What does he say? He says, "I am the son of the one who went on the Ma'raj." You know, the Ma'raj in the Quran, you have to believe in it. Every Muslim has to believe in the Ma'raj. When Rasulullah went into the 7 heavens, you have to believe in that. Even if it doesn't enter, if you can't comprehend it. It's one of the issues of ghaib that you must believe in the Quran. And it's interesting that the Imam uses this because when he says, "Dana fatadalla fakana qaba qawsayni aw adna," that means Dana means qurb. It means the closeness. Okay? So Rasulullah went to the seven heavens and entered Sidrat al-Muntaha, where Jibreel said, I can't go on anymore. And then he enters a place where there are 500 veils. Each one is 500 years apart from the other. And Rasulullah passes through it all and enters this place called Sidrat al-Muntaha, where it's only him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, Allah is not in a place, but this is the closest anyone ever reached Allah. And that's when Allah said to him, أنا المحمود وأنت محمد شققت اسمك من اسمي. He says, I am the Mahmud and you are Muhammad. They have a conversation there. In any case, the Quran describes it as دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى. As in, he was so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فتدلى, and he became even, it's like the shiddat al-alaqa, how much they were connected to each other. And qaba is a measurement. Qawsain is a bow's length, 2 bow's lengths. It's like as if it was 2 bow's length away, or adna, or even less than that. That's how close he was to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you understand the spiritual significance of this, and Allah says, when my servant comes to me, I become the eyes with which he sees, the hand with which he strikes, the feet with which he walks upon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in Hadith Qudsi. Right? Imam Sajjad is reminding them of this story that has no doubt that says, I am his son. This is my lineage. And who can come close to that? Yazid was talking about his lineage and his ancestors in Badr. It became ridiculous. Right? The people are noticing this. They completely flipped it on Yazid. Yazid's panicking. A Syrian man comes on the side of Yazid. He wants to take the young Fatima, daughter of the Imam. And Lady Zainab says, you can't take her, neither can he. About Yazid. Yazid says, I can take her if I want. He says, no, you can't, unless you want to take another religion. Because he's gaining power and ruling through Islam. And you can't do it unless you want to leave Islam. Then he realizes, this will expose me more than anything. Because maybe I convinced the people that Imam Hussain alayhi salam was not a Muslim or had left Islam or was against the movement. But right now this will become too obvious. Especially the way they're rising up against me right now. He tells them to take them away. This was a victory. Now, in the cells, the Ahlul Bayt had to wait and mourn. And as time went on, a small revolt was occurring. And Yazid wanted to escape this. So he said to release them. Just let them go. He wants to get out of this whole issue. He even regrets it. And he tries to blame Ubaidullah. Tries to put the blame on him. And so he calls Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam and he says, you are free to go. The Imam says, let me go speak to my aunt Zainab. Lady Zainab alayhi salam comes and she tells him that we have not yet mourned for the Imam. And so they organize a place in Damascus, in the city of the empire, where everyone wore black and they came and they cried for Abu Abdullah, the majlis that we are doing right now. Then they go back to Medina and they bring the head with them and everyone comes and everyone's crying. Sayyidah Zainab goes straight to Rasulullah's grave sallallahu and she tells him, Ya Muhammad, your son Hussein is a shaheed now. And they begin to cry, everyone cries. And again, she performs another majlis and again recites poetry for the Imam. And this story, were it not for her, and the movement after Karbala, we would not be here talking about it. Because it would have ended with 30,000 verse 72, and the story would remain in the desert plains of Karbala, and no one would know. And so, this mountain of patience, Zainab. See, usually people ask, why? Show me someone who took more than Zainab. Someone in history who took more and did more than Zainab. The mountain of patience. You will not find. Show me something else, I'll take it. If you can show me something better, show me something equal. There isn't. But wallah, we have not done them justice because we have made it into a story. And that's why we must come back to this issue of knowledge. It was her knowledge, al-alima, that pulled her through. She knew of her time. She knew the lineage of Yazid. She knew the political structure. She knew that's how she could speak like that in the palace. But do we have knowledge? Do we acquire knowledge? It's not enough to have bits and bobs here and there. We need to be also aware of our political climate. We need to also be aware of who our enemies are. We need to be aware of what our taklif is. We need to have knowledge too. Otherwise, when it comes to us being in the palace of Yazid, we will fail. And we keep failing, brothers and sisters. And so we must acquire that knowledge through ma'rifah, ubudiyah, and with reading. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will send that nur into your hearts. Otherwise, if Imam Hussain alayhi salam came right now, you know, we have the raj'ah in Shi'ism. The Imam is supposed to come back. If Imam Hussain alayhi salam was to come back right now and saw us, what would he say? He'd say, oh, you're still crying for me. Thank you. You're still crying for me. Have you achieved any of my goals? We say, no, we've just been crying for you. Tayyib, the goals that I went for, you didn't go and try to establish those goals. You just cried for me for the last 1,400 years. Don't get me wrong, crying is one of the best things we can do from Hussain alayhi salam. But those tears are supposed to make our hearts soft and strong so that we can accomplish his goals. It's not an end, it's a means. It's a means to get closer to him, to accomplish his goals. It's not enough. And so the man comes to Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam afterwards and tells him, who was victorious on that day in Karbala? And the Imam tells him, when you hear those words, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ستعرف من الغالب. When you hear the words of the adhan rise at the prayer time, then you will know who was victorious. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin.